Can you hear me? How about now? Can you hear me now? Cool. We call the meeting to order. One of the things, Dr. Sharp's not going to be coming in until late. So as vice chairman, I'm having to, run the committee tonight. So, in our call order, Laura, if you would you, call for attendance for us?
Yes. Yes, Chair. All right, so Samuel Boyce.
Here.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Here.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Here.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Here.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Here.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
He's going to be late.
Okay, so he'll be joining us later.
Yeah.
Tom Smith. Is he joining?
No.
Okay. He has not arrived yet. Adam Tyler.
Here.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Here.
Thank you. Tim Wilson. James Rochelle. Okay. And Tim Wilson and James Rochelle are not here.
Okay. Do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir.
We do. Cool. Okay. I need a vote a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Kane Faircloth, I second it.
Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote
Yes, ma'am.
for James Boyce.
Aye. Yes.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Yes.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye, present.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the January 12th, 2022 meeting, and I need a motion.
This is Jason Fowler. I'll provide a motion.
Kane Faircloth, second.
Jason Fowler. And I believe Tom Smith has joined us as well.
Cool.
Tom Smith, are you present?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead with the roll call vote. Samuel Boyce,
Aye.
Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith. Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you.
Cool. Laura, is there any announcements or anything you need to let everyone?
Yes. So before we get started, thank you, Chair. I will just give everybody a heads up. We're doing a new hybrid type meeting tonight. So on the screen, you will see there are 3 listening stations. There's the CDO, which is where we are tonight. That's the main meeting location, in-person meeting location. We also have AC members who are participating via WebEx. In addition to that, we have the Dare County listening station and the New Hanover County listening station. These were 2 areas where people from the public can come and listen to the meeting and to give public comment in person if they signed up. So we're doing this to try to allow people to have more access to these meetings because we have done the hybrid version. It is more difficult to set up the equipment. And so that's why we are having all 3 of the in-person sessions in CDO. But hopefully these listening sessions will allow people to participate in the farther reaching locations. So with that, we will have members of the AC online. When you have comments or questions, please do raise your hand as you do in a standard WebEx meeting, and we will be tracking that here. In addition, Chairman James will be watching for hands in the chat and also here in person. And with that, I'll hand it back over.
Thank you, ma'am. One quick thing, before we get into the, striped bass management plan presentation. After, can you hear me now? There we go. After the presentation, if any of the AC members have any questions, we would like for those to ask questions first, and we'll do that before we go with the public comments. And I think that should be it. And at this point, we'll turn it over to you guys to give us a presentation on the striped bass.
Good afternoon, AC members. Tonight, we will be presenting you the management contained in Draft Amendment 2 to the North Carolina Estuarine Striped Bass Fishery Management Plan. For those of you who may not know who we are, I am Nathaniel Hancock, and with me are Charlton Godwin, Todd Mathis, and Joe Facindola. We are biologists for the division and co-leads for the Striped Bass FMP. Also joining us today is staff from the Wildlife Resources Commission, since Amendment 2 was jointly developed by the Division of Marine Fisheries, DMF, and Wildlife Resources Commission, WRC staff. I also want to point out that this presentation will follow along with the decision document in your packet that was sent to you a couple weeks ago. The goal of Amendment 2 is to manage for sustainable harvest. However, if factors out of our control prevent this, alternate strategies will be implemented to provide protection for and access to the resource. The objectives to achieve this goal are maintaining and restoring spawning stock, habitat restoration and enhancement, monitoring, and promoting stewardship of the resource. The Northern Management Unit, circled here, includes the Albemarle Sound Management Area, or ASMA, in light gray, which includes the Albemarle, Croatan, Roanoke, and Currituck Sounds, and all its tributaries, and the Roanoke River Management Area, also known as the RRMA, here in black, which includes the Roanoke River from the mouth up to the dam in Gaston. The striped bass stock in this area is known as the Albemarle Roanoke, or AR stock, and spawning takes place in the Roanoke River near Weldon. This stock is also managed under the Atlantic States Marine Fishery Commission because of the migratory nature of AR striped bass. The most recent AR striped bass stock assessment was completed and approved for management use in 2020. The assessment indicated the resource is overfished and is experiencing overfishing. The North Carolina Fisheries Reform Act and Amendment 6 to the ASMFC Interstate FMP for Atlantic striped bass require management measures to be implemented to end overfishing in 1 year and end the overfish status in 10 years. The Southern Management Unit is the Central Southern Management Area, also known as the CSMA, which is in dark gray on the map and includes all waters south of the ASMA. The CSMA has 3 stocks: the Tar Pamlico, Noose, and Cape Fear River stocks. Fish in the Tar Pamlico and Noose rivers mix, but they do not tend to go down to the Cape Fear River, nor do Cape Fear striped bass tend to move north. Because the CSMA striped bass stocks are non-migratory, meaning that they remain resident in the estuary, these stocks are not included under ASMFC management. The CSMA Estuarine Striped Bass Stocks Report, completed in 2020, is a collection of all data, all management effort, and all major analyses that have been completed for CSMA stocks to serve as an aid in development of Amendment 2. While this report does not yield a stock status, it does indicate that sustainability of Tar Pamlico and Noose River stocks is unlikely at any level of fishing mortality. It also indicates that natural recruitment is the primary limiting factor. The report concludes that without stocking, abundance will decline. In the Cape Fear River, abundance declined even with no possession measures in place. No possession measures were implemented in the Cape Fear River in 2008 and the Tar Pamlico and Neuse Rivers in 2019. The overall goal of these no possession measures is to increase the age structure and abundance of fish in these systems to move towards sustainable stocks. Draft Amendment 2 contains 3 sustainable harvest issue papers. One issue paper that deals with the potential to use hook and line in the striped bass commercial fishery, and one information paper about the history of striped bass stocking in North Carolina. Amendment 2 addresses the management strategies for the AR stock and the CSMA stock separately. Appendix 2 focuses on the AR stock, while Appendices 3 and 4 are focused on the CSMA stocks. Appendix 5 addresses a gear-specific issue. I would like to note, recommendations are initial and may change based on public and advisory committee input. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Charlton to run you through the AR issue papers.
Okay, thank you, Nathaniel. So now we are moving into Appendix 2, which is the issue paper that contains the sustainable harvest management strategies for the AR stock in the Albemarle Sound and Roanoke River management areas. The first issue we will discuss is the option to operate under a harvest moratorium or continue with the current total allowable landings, or TAL. The divisions and WRC staff initial recommendation is to continue to use the use of a TAL to manage harvest. The rationale for the recommendation begins with past experience. A limited TAL was effective in the 1990s in improving the stock. Additionally, a TAL ends the overfish status in 2026, well within 10 years. A moratorium would end the overfish status in 2024. So that's indicated on the graph here, where the lines on the figure go above the solid black line. And each of those 3 colors shows a level of recruitment used in the projections, with the gray line being a low-level recruitment. As you can see, with projected low-level recruitment, the number of mature females barely stays above the target. It also should be noted, if we don't get good spawning events soon in the future, the stock assessment updates could indicate a moratorium will be necessary. So now we'll move to option 2, which is to consider continuing to manage the ASMA commercial fishery as a bycatch fishery. The divisions and WRC staff initial recommendation is to maintain the bycatch fishery. The bycatch provision was implemented as a management tool in 1995. The bycatch provision requires the weight of striped bass not to exceed 50% of the total landings of a trip. Keeping or eliminating the bycatch provision has no impact on sustainable harvest because the fishery closes when the TAL is expected to be reached. The bycatch requirement discourages additional participants to enter the fishery to just target striped bass and not participate in other gillnet fisheries. If hook and line is used commercially, then the bycatch requirement would not be used for that gear. So here are the options for the next issue, which is accountability measures to address what happens when the TAL is exceeded. Basically, we have the first 2 options, which compares the total landings from all the fisheries to the total TAL to determine if a payback is necessary. And these first 2 options are associated with a 10% and 5% buffer respectively. Option C compares the landings from each individual fishery to that fishery's specific TAL to determine if a payback is necessary, and also includes a 5% buffer. Option D is like option C, except without any buffer around the TAL. The DMF recommends pound-for-pound overage paybacks due to the status of the stock and a need to be conservative. The WRC staff would prefer a 5% buffer over the TAL to account for uncertainty in recreational landings estimates. The division recommends a conservative approach of pound-for-pound paybacks due to the current overfished and overfishing status of the stock. While WRC staff preference is currently not an option under their accountability strategy to address overages. The WRC payback would be the portion above the buffer, not back to the TAL. And again, that reasoning is to account for uncertainty in estimates of catch. All right, moving on to the 4th issue for the AR stock, size limits to expand the age structure of the stock. And here are the options. Status quo, so in the Albemarle Sound management area, an 18-inch minimum size, and in the Roanoke River management area, the 18 to 22-inch harvest slot with only 1 fish greater than 27 inches allowed in the daily landing limit. Option B is to increase minimum size limits. Option C is in the ASMA, implement an 18 to 25-inch harvest slot. Option D, in the Roanoke River, maintain the 18 to 22-inch harvest slot with one fish greater than 40 inches as a trophy fishery. And then option E is in the Roanoke River management area, maintaining the current harvest slot of 18 to 20 inches with no fish greater. The division and WRC staff initial recommendations are for options 4C and 4E. The recommendations for option 4 are based on wanting to protect mature females and increase the number of females in the stock. This is the case with implementing an ASMA slot limit and removing the fish above the slot in the RMA. At their last meeting, the Wildlife Resources Commission supported removing that larger fish to protect mature females and their spawning potential. So option 5 are gear modifications and area closures to reduce discard mortality. So option A is status quo, continue commercial harvest of striped bass with gill nets and recreational harvest and catch and release fishing in the ASMA and RMA, including on the spawning grounds. Option B is do not allow harvest of striped bass with gill nets. Option C is do not allow harvest or catch and release fishing for striped bass on the spawning grounds or other areas where they're highly concentrated. Option D, expand the single barbless hook requirement to the entire Roanoke River management area during the striped bass season. And option E is implement a requirement to use non-offset barbless circle hooks when fishing with live or natural bait in the inland waters of the Roanoke River upstream of the Highway 258 bridge from May 1st through June 30th. And the division and WRC staff's initial recommendations are for options 5A and 5E. The rationale is removing gill nets as a gear to harvest striped bass would increase dead discards and negatively impact the shad and southern flounder fisheries. Expanding the single barbless hook requirement may impact fisheries targeting largemouth bass and other sport fish in the Roanoke River management area. Instead, the division, WRC, and enforcement officers will continue angler education to help reduce discard mortality. Additionally, the non-offset barbless hooks with live and natural bait will reduce dead discards and increase consistency with ocean striped bass regulations. All right, so this is the last issue for the AR stock, and it's adaptive management. So what is adaptive management? Adaptive management is a structured process of decision-making. It provides flexibility to incorporate new data and information as it is available. Has been used since the early 1990s to open and close seasons, open and close areas, and change daily possession limits to keep harvest below the towel. Used to make gear modifications as necessary to reduce discards. Also used more recently to close hotspots to reduce interactions with protected species. And it is used to adjust the towel based on stock assessments and updates to the stock assessment to keep fishing mortality below the fishing mortality target. The division and WRC staff's initial recommendations are to support all adaptive management measures. Adaptive management allows management to be adjusted and respond to data between full FMP reviews and has been an integral part of the striped bass FMP since 1993. It's used to keep harvest below the towel, reduce dead discards, and reduce interactions with protected species. It should be noted that the WRC does have limited proclamation authority compared to the division. Now I will turn it over to Todd Mathis to present the issues for the Tar Pamlico and Neuse River striped bass stocks.
So thank you, Charlton. I'm Todd Mathis. I'm a fisheries biologist out of the Washington Regional Office. The Central Southern Management Area is in the Southern Management Unit, which includes all the water south of the ASMA. The CSMA has 3 stocks, which are the Tar Pamlico, Neuse, and Cape Fear River stocks. I'm going to be covering the Tar Pamlico and Neuse River Sustainable Harvest Issue Paper, and then turn it over to Joe Facendula to cover the Cape Fear River Sustainable Harvest Issue Paper, and he'll also be covering the hook and line as a commercial gear issue paper. So option 1 is to continue or to end the no possession measure. The division and the Wildlife Resource Commission recommend option 1A to continue the no possession measure. Modeling indicates sustainability is unlikely at any level of fishing and is primarily limited by poor natural recruitment. Continuing the commercial and recreational harvest closure provides the best opportunity to evaluate the population response in absence of fishing mortality. If there are no other significant sources of mortality, such as natural mortality or discard mortality, or other losses to the population, such as fish leaving the system, no harvest should allow for the expansion of the age structure to include fish greater than age 10 to promote natural recruitment. If the no possession management is not maintained, alternative management strategies to promote sustainable harvest must be considered to manage harvest. Management strategies could include managing the fishery with the measures that were in place prior to the no possession measure. Option 2 is maintaining the gill net closure above the ferry lines. In 2019, the Marine Fisheries Commission directed the Division of Marine Fisheries Director to close waters upstream of the ferry lines to use of gill nets. In order to maintain this, the management must be selected in Amendment 2. If harvest is allowed in the rivers, the gill net closure above the ferry lines should be reevaluated. The reason for a single option is at the February 2022 Marine Fishery Commission business meeting, the Commission passed a motion to remove options 2B and 2C from Appendix 3. These were options to allow gill netting above the ferry lines. The rationale for limited gill netting was based on research that showed minimal interactions with striped bass in gill nets set greater than 200 yards from shore. Adaptive management allows management to be adjusted to respond to data between full FMP reviews. The Division and the Wildlife Resources Commission support option 3. It gives managers the flexibility to pivot and change management strategies when new information or data becomes available. Fishery independent surveys will continue to be used to monitor striped bass stocks in the Tar, Pamlico, and Neuse River systems. In 2017, the division initiated a seine and trawl survey to capture young of year striped bass in the rivers. Also, the division's gillnet surveys and the Wildlife Resource Commission's spawning ground surveys will be used to monitor the stocks. Adaptive management, as laid out in Amendment 2, schedules a review of fishery independent data through 2024 in 2025 and allows for adjustment of management measures and consideration of additional strategies. Now I'm going to turn it over to Joe Facendala to cover the Cape Fear River sustainable issue paper and the hook and line as a commercial gear issue paper.
Thank you, Todd. Appendix 4 is the Cape Fear River Sustainable Harvest issue paper. And this issue paper considers a potential change in management
Joe?
approach. Yes?
Joe, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you sounded good
We
on
can
the
hear you, but you're
I can-
very low.
I can hear him fine.
Yeah, he sounds good on remote.
Yep.
Hmm.
Carry on, you're good. Go ahead with it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so option 1 is to maintain the no possession provision. And this no possession measure was implemented in 2008 to increase both the age structure and abundance of striped bass in the Cape Fear River.
Joe, hold on one second while we see if we can get this figured out.
Okay, I can go up front and do it if it sounds like it's working for some people, so it's probably not on my end.
I think it's working for everybody that's remote. It's just not working in the conference room up there.
Yeah. Yeah, in the room. Have them mute. It sounds like you got some background noise with them, so maybe have them mute their.
Joe,
stuff.
hold
That
on
way
one
we can
second
hear
if you're still. Hold on.
Joe was in his office. I think he might come up here. Can you guys hear me clear?
Yes, very good.
We can.
Okay, can everyone hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Clear.
I can.
All right, so option one for this paper is to maintain the no possession provision. This provision was implemented in 2008 in order to increase the abundance and age structure of striped bass in the Cape Fear River. And maintaining this provision would continue to limit fishing mortality and protect the fish known to be successfully spawning there. This is the division recommended option. So the rationale for this is DMF recommends maintaining the no possession provision so we can evaluate passage at the newly renovated lock and dam passage structure at Lock and Dam 1, which was completed in November of 2021, and to assess passage during the recently implemented modified flow pulses. Maintaining the no possession provision would further allow us to assess the wild spawning that's happening in the system. And DMF believes that allowing harvest during the spawning season may impact fish making successful spawning runs. Option two is allowing seasonal harvest in the Cape Fear River. And this is the WRC recommended strategy. The rationale for this decision would be allowing harvest to provide angling opportunities for harvest of the hatchery supported stock. Despite 13 years of no harvest, the population primarily remains stocked fish, and WRC believes that access to the spawning grounds is unlikely before the next plan review. Additional options for this paper would be allow seasonal harvest in joint and inland fishing waters only above the 140 bridge, as well as allow harvest in inland fishing waters on the main stem of the Cape Fear River. And there's also adaptive management. Both DMF and WRC support adaptive management. This would allow us to assess any wild spawning that's happening with both the Young of the Year surveys and the genetic testing, and adjust management as needed. So Appendix 5 is looking at the use of hook and line as a commercial gear. In Amendment 1 of the Striped Bass FMP, a rule was changed to allow hook and line to be used in the future as an adaptive management tool if regulations on the use of gill nets required any additional gear to be able to harvest. This issue paper examines management considerations with implementing hook and line as a commercial gear and whether if it's an appropriate time right now to allow this gear to be used. The management options are do not allow, and as well as an adaptive management framework. The preferred management option from DMF and WRC is to not allow the use of hook and line as a commercial gear at this time. Due to the current stock status of overfish and overfishing in the low tal, we do not recommend the use of hook and line at this time because of the potential to increase participation in this fishery. However, we do recommend adaptive management, and this would allow us to keep the tool of hook and line in the toolbox and kind of, as well as establish a framework for the use if it's needed to be used. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Charlton there in the CDO.
Thank you, Joe. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions about the issues from the advisory committee. And you'll also note that we have our contact information on the screen if you wish to reach out to any of the leads as we go through the next steps in the development of the Striped Bass FMP. With that, I'll hand it back to the chair. Thank you.
Okay, anybody got any questions from the AC?
Gary, I do. This is Kane.
Go ahead, Kane.
This is for the guys at the scientists at the division. I was just curious. I live in Brunswick County in the southern part of the state. Has there ever been a recorded fishery in the Lockwood or Shallot rivers for striped bass? We do not see them here very often, just rarely. I didn't know in the history of our state and what you guys knew on the science wise, if there was actually a fishery there and we completely lost it, or is it just not the right conditions to produce them?
So as far as I know, there has never been any striped bass. At least there may have been some, wanderers that may have ended up there, but no established populations. And that's just because the Lockwood and Shallow don't really have the right spawning habitat for striped bass to kind of reproduce there.
Okay, cool. I don't recall my ancestors talking about them much at all, and just wanted to kind of hear it from you guys on the scientific background side. So I appreciate the comeback.
Joe, this is Tom Smith. I have a question on the recent work they've done on the arch bridge or dam, whatever they wish to call that thing on Lock 1. What is, I guess, y'all's opinion on how successful this may or may not be? And if it isn't, is there any other options?
Well, right now we don't know, but I can say the structure that was there beforehand was built before they really figured out the proper dimensions as far as pool width and pool openings that striped bass need to be able to pass. And so I think in 2016, there was kind of extensive list of dimensions for anadromous fish of what they need to be able to pass over these structures. And what was there in 2012 did not meet that. But how they've adjusted and kind of made larger openings and bigger pools, that those dimensions should they match what is known to be required for striped bass. So we're hoping that it's going to improve, greatly.
And I guess the second question, even though it's not part of this discussion tonight, do they believe that it would have allow any access for the sturgeon or not?
Potentially for sturgeon. After even it was constructed in 2012, there was reports of sturgeon making it, people, citing them over Locking Dam 1 with how it was before, and with the bigger openings and pool dimensions, I would imagine it would be even better for sturgeon pass. Plus also the flow pulses that they just implemented kind of dialed in and got going here this past spring, and there's actually one occurring right now to submerge the locks and dams. So if the passage structure isn't quite right, it'll at least all be underwater.
Right. And I guess 2 is in pretty poor shape, from my understanding. I was on the striped bass FMP, and I understand 2 is in pretty poor shape, and I think everybody would be glad probably to be rid of it, given what it is. And I guess 3 is really a holdup because of water supply issues in the Fayetteville, Fort Bragg area. That's my understanding, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And I guess I still don't think that, I think that Lot 3 still would probably prohibit very successful spawning unless the fish can navigate over it. And I guess if we get to the point where they can get past 1 and 2, is there something they could do to 3 to, get them more towards the natural spawning areas?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely plans in the works for just trying to get passage at both 2 and 3. It's kind of a larger interagency work group working on that. When that'll happen, don't know, but there's definitely plans to try.
Well, thank you.
I need to remind everybody, make sure you raise your hand so we'll know to call on you.
And I think I see Jeremy McCargo with the Wildlife Resources Commission may want to comment on that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Smith, this is Jeremy McCargo with the Wildlife Commission. I'll just add a little bit to Joe's answer to your question. There is, another alternative is to operate the locks again to pass fish through the lock chambers themselves. It was fairly effective for striped bass passage at Lock and Dam 1 prior to building the Rock Arch Fishway. It is our understanding from the Corps that Lock and Dam 1 is still operable. They can open and close the locks However, they've not been doing that so that we can evaluate the passage at the Rock Arch ramp. The lock chambers at 2 and 3 are both inoperable. They were damaged during Hurricane Florence in 2018, and they cannot physically open those lock chamber doors at the moment. However, we learned that recently learned that the Corps was able to obtain, I think, almost $6.5 million from the infrastructure bill to refurbish the lock chambers at all 3 locks and dams, so they can again be operable and help pass fish until there's other fish passage structures constructed at 2 and 3, or until they're removed and they're no longer a barrier. So that's the third option, of course, is to remove the dams that we can and allow passage up the river to the spawning grounds. But we do know that historic spawning grounds on the Cape Fear were upstream of Lock and Dam 3, where the fall line begins and you start to get the rocky boulder habitat that they need to spawn. So until we can get striped bass all the way up there, we don't really expect them to successfully reproduce in the Cape Fear.
Thank you for that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom, go ahead.
No, I was just thanking him for his update on that. I have the same opinion until we can get the fish upstream. The Cape Fear is just it's horrible that we lost one that if you go back and look at the numbers at the turn of the century before they built the lock and dams was a huge fishery. It was a big commercial fishery at that time. And of course, I assume it would have effectively been a large recreational fishery. And those dams just really finish that river off for migratory fish. And until we can get them out of the way or sufficiently bypassed, we're just fiddling around the edges, whatever we do on striped bass in the Cape Fear River. Has great potential, but right now those 3 dams kind of limit this to basically a stock fishery.
Jeremy, this is Jerry James. Couple of questions. With all the money that the state's throwing around now, and I know you've heard it, being in government myself with all these grant monies, is WRC looking at some of that money to maybe get rid of those lock and dams? Do you know?
Well, at the moment, the Army Corps of Engineers still owns the locks and dams, and they have to agree to have any structures built on the locks and dams themselves. And however, they've been conducting what they call a disposition study for over 2 years now. It was slowed down because of COVID, but it started before COVID, and so that disposition study was the Corps looking at the use of the facilities to see if they meet their authorized purpose, which is to allow navigation up the river. And of course, they're not meeting that purpose, and there's not a need for that barge traffic moving up and down the river any longer. So for the state to take over ownership and do anything with the structures, it first takes the Corps deciding that they want to get rid of them, and then it takes, as I understand it, literally an act of Congress to allow the Corps to dispose of the property to a willing taker. So it's a long process, and it's in the federal government realm at the moment.
And I know I'm having to deal with Corps engineers myself, and my part-time job trying to get a permit to clean out a ditch, and it's unreal. I'm still working on it after a year, so Corps engineers doesn't move very fast. I know where you're at, but I was just hoping maybe wildlife could maybe work with the Corps on some of it to maybe try to help them get some money to do that. My next question is the harvest that WRC recommended, for a season, what would be the creel limit and the season if we were to open the Cape Fear back up?
We looked at a couple different scenarios. They're in the FMP as far as what the creel limit would be and the size limit. I think the one scenario that would open the entire river to harvest included, Charlton or Joe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 2 fish per day, 18-inch minimum. And then it was a limited season for harvest, not year round by any means. So we would certainly want to restrict harvest to make sure there's not too many fish being taken out, but allow access to those hatchery fish.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else got their hands up?
Sam and Adam both do.
Okay, Sam?
Yeah, I just had a question in the appendix with the actual FMP, I guess the management thing. It talked about the hatchery supported, and some of that might change depending on the recommendations. Did I read that wrong, or can somebody explain if anything would change to the hatcheries or where they're releasing fish based on what's selected?
I think that WRC kind of grows and stocks the fish for the Cape Fear, so that's probably a question for Jeremy.
Sure, and that question was specific to the Cape Fear, is that right?
Yes, that was specific to the Cape Fear.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so our upper management has looked at the the scenario that we have in the Cape Fear, where we've been stocking fish in the Cape Fear with our Watha State Fish Hatchery for over a decade now, with limited or no improvement in the sustainability of the stock. And so we're essentially stocking those fish to grow and die without the chance of harvest. And so where there's a situation where we don't have access to those hatchery fish, and they're not performing a restoration objective, not meeting that objective because they don't have access to the spawning grounds, it's our opinion that we should allow harvest for those who want to participate in the recreational harvest of those hatchery fish. And so in looking at the options, it's hard for us to continue to justify the hatchery program if they're not providing that restoration benefit, and if they're not providing a recreational harvest opportunity as well. So we have said that we would really have to look at our participation in stocking the Cape Fear, and whether it's necessary if the fishery were to remain closed and the access to their spawning habitat and restoration potential remains minimal.
Does that mean the stock would basically go to nothing?
I mean, essentially, it's possible that could happen because at the moment, when we do the study of the population, over 90% of the fish that we sample are hatchery fish. There is a limited amount of natural reproduction occurring. Some of it appears to be in the Northeast Cape Fear, because the MF has found some juvenile fish that were wild in the Northeast Cape Fear, and there are just a few fish that show up that are not hatchery fish in our spawning ground survey as well. So, but most likely, until those fish get access to the spawning grounds, if we're not stocking, we probably will lose the majority of the striped bass in the river.
Okay. Thanks.
Adam, you got anything?
Yeah, I got a couple questions. The first one is to deal with the tar pamlico noose. We've had a no possession limit, I guess it's 2019, in that region, and there's obviously been no improvement. Where, I guess, is the mature females? Where are they? Or is it, why is there no recruitment there?
So this is Todd. Thank you for the question. The fishery has been closed now for about 3 years, and it's going to take a little bit of time for us to see improvement. There's a lot of variability within the systems, and this third year, we kind of anecdotally are starting to maybe see some larger fish, and we've had in 2021, we actually had some recruitment in the tar pamlico of a couple of young of year fish. We're not sure if they're hatchery fish yet or wild fish, but we are, starting to see maybe a little bit of signs, and it's going to take a few years for us to really see any improvement in the age structure of these fish.
Okay, I guess the second question is, based on this, you're saying that you don't know if they're hatchery or wild fish. I know there's DNA testing, but if the parents are hatchery fish, does that mean that their year of young, the young fish, the juvenile fish are also hatchery reared, or does that change in their sequencing of DNA? I'm trying to get a better understanding of this.
Yeah, so those fish that are hatchery fish have a parentage-based tag. It's a genetic marker, and we can tell that. But if two hatchery fish spawned and produced a fish, then that fish would not be traceable through the parentage-based tagging, but it would be represented as a wild fish.
Okay, all right, that answers that question for me, and I appreciate that answer.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Don't see anyone. One thing that I would, Adam, you were talking about the fish. You know, a lot of my friends fish the Trent River and the Neuse. We're striper fishing, and we're catching some good sized stripers and catching some good numbers. So
That's a positive.
That's a real good positive because, you know, a couple of years ago, yeah, we were catching some, but it's really picked up, and so I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, and abundance is something that's out there, and to increase that spawning stock biomass, those older fish is really what we're trying to do. You know, we would see fish, you know, up to 6 years old a lot, but since we've shut this down, it gives us the opportunity to see if that fishing mortality was responsible for some of that. Mm-hmm. So it's good to hear that you're seeing some of the numbers of fish and larger fish.
Yes. Is that all we have from the HC members? Anybody else got anything, any questions for the guys? Don't see anybody. If not, we'll open it up to public comment. One of the things that I want to let everyone know that we're going to limit your time of talking to 3 minutes. So we'll kind of somehow keep up with the 3-minute deal.
Miss Debbie will.
Miss Debbie's going to take care of that. So I guess we should start in the New Hanover, I guess, down at Wilmington.
Yeah, Rich Carpenter.
Rich Carpenter.
Rich.
Okay.
Hey there. Good evening. My name is Rich Carpenter, and I'm here tonight to submit some comments from Cape Fear River Watch on the bass management plan, specifically for the Cape Fear River. Cape Fear River Watch is a nonprofit environmental organization, and our mission is to protect and improve the water quality of the Cape Fear River Basin. We have devoted quite a bit of time and effort to rebuilding the fish stocks in Cape Fear River, and we were involved with the building of the first rock arch ramp to improve the fish passage over Lock and Dam number 1. We also participated in the monitoring studies to assess the effectiveness of that structure. That particular structure, excuse me, as Joe had mentioned, was not real effective in passing larger fish like striped bass and sturgeon, but was somewhat effective in passing smaller fish such as American shad and river herring. Subsequent to that rock arch ramp going into to the river, research in other systems found that passage for larger fish could be facilitated by modifications to that structure. So Cape Fear River Watch led an effort to modify that structure, which was completed this past fall. Starting in last month, a consortium of organizations, universities, agencies led by Clemson University is conducting tagging studies and sonic tagging of fish movement to assess the effectiveness of the new modification. Allowing the harvest of fish at this time presents the possibility that tagged fish could be taken, compromising the studies and causing the loss of expensive sonic tags. The Corps of Engineers is currently altering the river flow so that the water levels are topping the dams, the Lock and Dam 2 and 3. potentially allowing easier access for striped bass to reach their traditional spawning grounds. We feel it's not in the best interest of the stock or to the studies to allow harvest at this time. Striped bass also have very elevated levels of heavy metals, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, which you may have heard of, and dioxin in their tissues. Allowing fish for consumption before more is known about the health effects of these, especially PFAS chemicals, is unwise. We experienced very high mortality of striped bass after Hurricane Florence due to the low levels of dissolved oxygen.
Thank you, Rich. Time's up.
Oh, man, that was quick. I didn't know it was that long.
3 minutes, wasn't it?
What's that?
Reese Decker and Dare.
Reese,
Yeah, Reese Decker and Dare County.
Reese Decker in Dare County.
We'll get the outside ones and then we can hit the CDL.
Reese?
It'll take a minute to transfer the speaker over.
Okay.
Thought we were gonna get more than 3 minutes. We did last night, so now I gotta.
Can we give them possibly like a warning when they have 30 seconds left, just so they could maybe wrap up any important points they wanted?
We did. Evidently, he didn't hear us. But yes, we'll continue to do that.
So if I may, Chairman, Lee or David, if you could, we have a person timing here, but I think that we are not coming through. So if you wouldn't mind just timing the folks in your area, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Got it. Tell me when to go.
Go for it.
Okay, my name's Reese Stecker. I've run a center console charter boat in the Oregon Inlet area and Albemarle Sound area since 1997. I know nothing about the southern region. I understand you guys are going to be voting too on the northern region, so that's why I'm here to pass on to you guys. We've had, I would have understood a cut 8 years ago whenever we had some real slow fishing, but the past 6-7 years, we've had really good fishing. In fact, really, really good fishing 2 years ago to where we were starting to go every day. We were running 2 trips some days. And then our quota got cut by over 80% last year. And it's really hard, the Albemarle Sound quota, it's really hard for us to swallow it, given that the Albemarle Sound is 667,684 acres. It's a 6-month season, not during the spawn. We split our quota right down the middle with Roanoke Rapids. They're fishing 6,420 acres during the spawn on the spawning grounds. This past season, we came in 4,500 some change under quota. The Roanoke Rapids region caught more than double their quota. They went 14,742 pounds over quota. And this is on the spawning grounds while the fish are spawning. I mean, I just don't get it how this has been overlooked. I've been doing this for 25 years. I mean, we've been talking about it for 25 years. It gets swept under the rug like it's not even going on. And they're not getting penalized. They're not getting penalized for going over double last year. They're getting rewarded with a 4-day season. Meanwhile, us in Albemarle Sound have had great fish and we're getting penalized. Dead discards. My guys, they've had since 97, the #1 killer of striped bass in North Carolina is dead discards. Since 97, Roanoke Rapids has had 182,481 pounds. The Albemarle Sound region's had 53,880. They've had 3 times more dead discards than we have. That's something y'all need to think about when you're looking into this about the possibility of a reallocation.
30 seconds.
We lost over 80% of our quota. The netters don't even have that many dead discards. The netters are at I can't find it, but they're on 150 some thousand. The dead discards in Roanoke Rapids are almost as much as the Albemarle Sound and the Netters quota combined. It just makes no sense for everybody to turn and look the other way, sweep it under the rug year after year after year. If we had a healthy population, and I think the population is.
Thank you, Reese. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I think next is our in-person people. Fred?
It's on. He knows it. Yeah.
It's taking more 3 minutes to talk about myself. So I start? Okay, I'm Fritz Rohde. I'm with NOAA Fisheries, been with them 14 years, working on fish passage issues, including the Nature Like Fishway. I worked 25 years with the State Division of Marine Fisheries in Wilmington with Rich. And NOAA Fisheries is totally in favor of, I believe it's option 1, which is the EMS position, which is no harvest. We put a lot of effort in trying to improve passage at Lock and Dam 1. We're doing modifications. We're seeing reproduction of striped bass below number 1, but if we can get above that, I feel it'll be much better. I got to talk real fast here. The Northeast Cape Fear has been overlooked. It seems like a very unique system with the spawning going on there. I know WRC used to do spawning surveys in that river. It should be reinstituted and reinvestigated. I disagree a little bit about the Smiley Falls being the holy grail for everything that goes up the river. I thought that too for a long time. But that dam went in, Lock and Dam went in 107 years ago, and we've had striped bass in the river ever since. So they're spawning somewhere up that river. So I don't think you're going to wink out even without stocking continuing in the river. I'm talking too fast now. Oh, shoot. Anyway, I can address the passage at Lock and Dam 1. We're satisfied with 70+% of shad. It's going to get better. The sturgeon are going to pass. I feel the striped bass will be passing in higher numbers this year with the enlarged pools and the better flow that's going through the structure. The Army Corps has been sitting on the disposition of those dams for way too long, hasn't not got out of Wilmington yet. And I agree with they should be something. Number 2 should be taken out and 3 should be modified somehow to get passage. But again, I firmly believe we're getting reproduction in the Cape Fear below Buckhorn Dam. It's happening, and because otherwise in the 60s when Nichols and Louders did their study at the experimental Lock and Dam 1, they were seeing they call them juvenile or immature striped bass being locked upstream back in the early 60s prior to any stocking by WRC. So there was reproduction has been going on. I'm done. I ran out of gas, which is kind of surprising for me, but anyway.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Fritz.
Yep. Glenn?
I'm Glenn Skinner, Executive Director of North Carolina Fisheries Association. I want to start off by reading the press release issued by Secretary Regan of DEQ back in 2019. It says, I am disappointed by the Marine Fisheries Commission calling an emergency meeting with only 48 hours notice for a non-emergency. The commission used bad judgment in directing the Division of Marine Fisheries Director to take actions that contradict science and the recommendation of the division scientist. I certainly hope this is not a precedent we will see again from this commission. The statute empowering the Marine Fisheries Commission to direct issuance of gillnet bans in certain areas does not authorize the Secretary or the Department discretion to overturn such a directive. This was issued after the Marine Fisheries Commission called an emergency meeting, as he said, for a non-emergency, and eliminated the gillnet fisheries, all gillnet fisheries above the ferry lines in the Neuse and Pamlico rivers. There was no science to support doing this. They requested that Director Murphy issued a proclamation prior to the emergency meeting, and he declined, sending them a 6-page letter explaining why science didn't support it and he wouldn't do it. They then called the emergency meeting and forced him to close all gill netting above the ferry lines in these 2 rivers. I'm here tonight to request that this committee recommend, as the Northern Committee did last night, that you allow the gillnet fisheries to occur up in these rivers again. There was measures put in place prior to this that protected striped bass when the harvest season was not open, which was most of the year. There's also measures put in place to protect red drum and other fish from discard mortality in these gillnet fisheries. They've choked out the mullet fishery, the white perch fishery, the white shad fishery, and other fisheries for absolutely no reason. And I hope you all will do as the Northern Committee did last night and recommend that the MFC lift this gillnet ban that was put in place for no reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Greg Judy?
I'm Gregory Judy. I live in Washington, North Carolina. Good evening. I thank you for being actively involved as a member of the advisory committee. I will direct my comments to the management options for the Tar, Pamlico, and Neuse River. Last fall, October 2021, I served as a commercial representative on the Estuarine Striped Bass Management Plan workshop. Overall, I thought the process went well and there was a good exchange between the participants. Prior to the workshop, I had contacted commercial fishermen in both river systems to gauge their thoughts on the management of striped bass. Because of the current low population and poor natural recruitment, the consensus of the fishermen was to reluctantly support the no possession measure for striped bass as the population rebuilds. What the fishermen requested was access to the use of gill nets above the ferry lines. I tried to inform the PDT that most of the effort would be small mesh nets targeting striped mullet, speckled trout, and white perch. These would mostly be drop nets and would be attended. It seemed reasonable to also include the large mesh flounder fishery since the season would only be 2 to 3 weeks in duration, and due to cooler water temperatures in October, releases from incidental catch of stripers would have higher survival rates. In the Pamlico and Neuse River systems, data provided by DMF shows that for the years 2013 through 2018, average annual total dead striped bass from small mesh and large mesh gill nets was 708 fish. Almost 2/3 of this total was from large mesh nets. But remember, at that time, the flounder season was 11 months long, not 2 to 3 weeks. Also, those mortalities included striper discards caught during the open striped bass season, when large mesh nets could be set very close to shore and didn't require tie downs. At the latest MFC meeting in February, the commission eliminated the option to the use of nets above the ferry lines. By eliminating that option, those commissioners aligned with the CCA and the NC Wildlife Federation showed their true colors by trying to prevent review and debate by the public and the advisory committee. I'll give you an example in defense of the use of gill nets. In the Albemarle Sound Complex, the 2008 river herring moratorium has
30 seconds.
in a steady decline in the use of small mesh gill nets. In 1999, there were approximately 9,500 small mesh trips. In 2018, there were approximately 1,600 small mesh trips, an 83% reduction in the number of small mesh trips, but striped bass continue to decline in the Albemarle Sound and Roanoke River. Please consider and recommend the limited use of gill nets above the ferry lines. Thank you.
Time.
He timed that just right, didn't he? All right. Okay, I think next on our agenda is we will start going through the decision document. One thing that I want to ask the committee, I know that the Northern guys last night voted on a lot of stuff, really didn't talk that much about the Southern stuff, but really, which is probably most of our stuff, and which would be, what is it, 3, 4, and 5? So, I mean, do we want to spend a little bit more time on 3, 4, and 5 than we would the first ones for the Albemarle Sound Roanoke? So I'm just asking, throwing that out there to ask. So has anybody got any comments? I'll handle it any way you guys want to handle it. We can actually go through each one of them and we can tell you how they voted if you want us to do that.
Well, on appendix 3, is that what we're talking about, skipping over a little bit? I'm sorry. Appendix 3, we're talking about going on past that, right?
Appendix 2. Appendix,
Okay, I was thinking he was saying 1, 2.
I think it's Appendix 2, which is the Albemarle Roanoke
Mm-hmm.
issue paper. Then Appendix 3 starts into the Tarpam news.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
And Chair, we have some hands up online.
Okay, who we got there?
Thomas Smith is first.
Okay, Thomas. Okay, Thomas, go ahead.
My only comment to that is they did ask us to review and make recommendations on everything, even though our focus is going to be on the central and southern areas. I think we should take the time to make a recommendation on the Roanoke Albemarle, because that's part of our purview as an advisory committee. So, you know, they've asked us to look at it and make a comment. So I think we ought to be doing it. Thank you.
All right, sounds like a winner, Wes. Anybody else got anything to say? We'll go through each one of them. Jason, oh, sorry about that, Jason. Go for
Oh,
it.
no, you're fine, sir. I do agree. I wanted to basically say I agree with Tom. I think we should go through them all. And I would also like to hear, like you mentioned, you know, what the northern votes were whenever we go through each decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tina, you want to help me with that one? The first one, the management options, which is status quo, implement a harvest moratorium. And that's the 2, I think yeah, we'll go through each one of them. I guess that's the way we would do it, correct?
That's correct. So if you look on your decision document, page 4, it's the starting of the option 1 for the Appendix 2 Albemarle Roanoke Sustainable Harvest issue paper. So the overview from the northern region, they discussed this at length, and they had 2 motions on the table, but neither passed. So they had no recommendation in their final approach for that particular option. The motions that didn't pass included a complete moratorium on all harvest of striped bass in both the Roanoke River and the Albemarle Sound management areas until quantifiable measures of stock recovery had been met. And the other motion that failed included establish a fishing moratorium on striped bass in the Roanoke River management area during the spawning season from April to May annually. And again, both of those failed, and due to their failure, they had no recommendation on option 1.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could chime in real quick, before we start on motions, if it makes it easier for you, when you go to suggest a motion or put forward a motion, if you would like to say simply 1A or 1B, if you're trying to choose an option that we've already set forward, that might just make it run a little bit smoothly if you're choosing to do one of those.
Fine, yes, that'll work. Okay, 1A or 1B, guys? Ain't that right? There you go. I need a motion. Or no motion. Evidently, nobody has.
Hey, you guys, can you guys hear me okay?
I can't see it up there, so I didn't.
Yeah, somebody else was speaking, then let them go ahead.
Jerry, this is Fred. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, man. Hey, Fred.
Hey, everyone. Sorry I'm late. But I will make a motion that we support option A, which is the use of the total allowable landings quota.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Sam, I'll second.
All right, we'll just give a moment for Corinne to catch up, and you should be able to see the motion as it's written on the screen.
Okay. Call for the vote. Go ahead.
Discussion.
I'm sorry. Any discussion? Adam, go ahead. I'm sorry, I can't see who's.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Adam.
I'm sorry, I had my hand raised and thought I took it down. I'm sorry.
Okay. Then I guess we can call for the vote.
Okay. Yes, Chair. Samuel Boyce.
Yes.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith.
I do not see the motion on the screen to be clear.
Would you like me to read it, sir?
Yes, please. I thought it was going to be printed as in the past.
It is on the screen. It says motion by Fred Scharf.
It's not on the screen.
Oh,
It's not on the screen. That's not in the,
yeah.
We will share it now. Sorry, we had it up and thought it was sharing. And let me know when you see it.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. And when you're ready, Tom Smith, if you would like to vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Yes.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Yes.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And it looks like it passes.
Motion passes.
Okay, let's go to number 2. We've got either number 2, A or B.
Would you like to hear the Northern AC?
The northern.
Did you get Mr. Sharf's, Dr. Sharf's vote for the last one? I know he
Yeah.
chimed in, but I didn't see the X by his name on there.
So just so everyone knows, the X's
Okay.
are more delayed than the text. We do not
All right.
know what this is, but it should be populated. If you do have a concern, if you could just chat and we can let you know if it was missed or not, because we do appreciate if you see a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we good to go? Okay. All right. Need a motion. Unless anybody has anything they want to say.
Mr. Chairman, we'll make the chairman 2A. Thank you. Ugh.
Okay.
This is Tom Smith. I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion or anybody want to say anything?
No hands.
No hands? Call for the vote.
Yes, Chair. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom
Skip me.
Smith. Oh, Jeffrey Harrell. I apologize.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, sir. Jeffrey Harrell, did you give your
I
vote?
said aye. Aye. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. And Tim Wilson is absent. Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Yes.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 3, the accountability measures. We got A, B, C, and D. Anybody got anything they want to say?
What did the Northern Advisory Committee recommend?
Okay, the accountability measures, they move to accept option 3D.
Okay. Need a motion?
This is Sam. I'll motion we accept 3D as well.
Need a second? Need a second?
I'll second.
And who was the second? I'm sorry.
Adam.
Thank you.
Any discussion on it?
I have a quick question. Can you put that back up there, the management options again?
Yes, they're coming.
Okay. If the landings in any fishery exceed their TAL, landings in excess of the TAL will be deducted from that fishery's TAL next year. And we're specifically applying that by sector, correct?
That is correct. So that differentiates Albemarle Sound recreational from Roanoke River recreational. Those are considered in the context of this option, two separate fisheries.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that correctly.
His hand is raised.
Tom, your hand is raised. You got a question or a comment? Tom?
Tom, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I was unmuted and muted myself. Just want to be clear with y'all that if we do it as D, there's no room for error. If it doesn't matter who goes over, when they go over, it's going to cut the next year. And you could have a very, very short season the next year with no room for error. And I know that the wildlife people are wanting a little bit of a cushion because of the ability to estimate recreational landings. So I just, you got to think hard that, are we going to do this at a zero, anything over the cow period, any pound, you're going to lose the next year instead of giving cushion to the fisheries, a small cushion. I would think that a small cushion would be appropriate, but I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay. Jason?
Yeah, which one of these options was the preferred method for the preferred choice of WRC?
WRC staff does not agree with the accountability measures for overages as written under option 3. That's what it says.
I believe they wanted like a 5% buffer. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if Jeremy wanted to add to that, but I will explain. So the Wildlife Commission, they wanted to have a buffer, but in addition, any excess above that, any excess would come from above the buffer, not the TAL, right? So the excess landings, which you had to pay back, only included what you went over the buffer as opposed to the actual TAL.
So it'd be the 5% over anything over that.
Anything over the 5% above that buffer
would be taken off following year.
Right.
So you got the 5% buffer. Okay. Fred?
Yeah, there's a related to that comment that Tom just made and that Jerry was just referring to. There's a statement in the rationale about this payback, and it basically says the preference for a buffer is currently not an option under the accountability strategy to address overages. Can you explain that a little bit more about what do you mean by it's not an option under the accountability strategy? Just trying to make sure we're not legally bound by one measure or another. Can someone explain that a little more clearly?
Well, thank you, Dr. Scharf. I think that does go to the fact that, when we do the projections and we come up with this TAL that's going to end our overfishing, and that's the number that we need to get to reach our fishery, our fishery mortality targets. If we go over 1 year, but we don't take back the whole reduction the next year, then we're just not going to, mathematically, that's not going to meet our projections and our target, and that just really is not an option under the FRA.
And are the recreational landings, are they estimated through the EMRA program?
No, sir. For striped bass, because they occur so far away from the ocean estuary area, most of them are occurring further upriver. In the Tarpam and Neuse River, MRIP samplers don't really cover that area. So we have our own striped bass creel survey. The division runs the striped bass krill surveys in the Albemarle Sound, Tarpam, Noose, and Cape Fear rivers, and the Wildlife Resources Commission has run that krill survey in the Roanoke River since '88. So we have our own survey specifically for striped bass in these systems.
Okay. Just as a, just as a point of, over sort of arching clarification, when we have accountability measures or payback at the federal level through the South Atlantic Council, they are sort of one for one. There is no precedent for a buffer. So if the TAO is, if there's a payback portion, not all the management plans have them, but if there is one, there isn't typically a buffer. So any landings that are exceeded above the total allowable catch have to be paid back in that next fishing season. So this, option D is in line with that approach.
Anyone else? I think we have a motion in a second. Okay, we'll go back. Yes. Okay, call for the vote.
Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Aye.
Okay, and it looks like motion passes. Okay, the next number 4 is A, B, C, D, and E. And the northern, just to go ahead and let you know that, they recommended 4C and 4E, which is the division's recommendations. But any discussion?
Well, you need to have a motion to have the discussion.
Oh, sorry about that. Well, we'll have a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt option 4, C, and E.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I think that was Adam, didn't he? Second, yes.
Correct.
Okay, now, is there any discussion? I'm trying to get done early, ain't
Okay.
it? Yeah.
Tom Smith has his hand up.
Okay, Tom, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I will just say these options, because I was on the FMP with this, and the idea of protecting the bigger fish is really critical, and this goes a long ways from where we were. So I think this is a good way to do it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else got their hand up? Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, just a point of clarification in my report. So in the document, I have the option D, which is to maintain the 18 to 22 inch slot in the Roanoke River management area, but allow one fish greater than 40, right? The current status quo is 18 to 22 with one fish over 27. And option D was maintain that 18 to 22 with one fish over 40. In my report, it had 2 stars next to it, indicating that it might have been the WRC's preferred option, but it wasn't, the text wasn't green. So I just wanted to know if that was the WRC's preferred alternative.
Fred, that's because WRC actually changed that option in the most updated version. So now WRC also supports option 4C and 4E.
Okay, super. Just wanted to make sure of that. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Call for the vote.
Yes, Chair. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thanks. Pam Morris. Aye. Thank you. James Rochelle. He's absent. Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
And it looks like that one passed. Okay, number 5 is gear modifications on A, B, C, D, and E. And I need someone to give me a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Adam. I will give the motion to recommend 5A and 5E.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second it. This is Kane.
Okay, just to let you know before we go into any discussion, in case we're asked, Northern voted for the same thing, 5A and 5E. They voted it 6-3, so it passed. Any discussion on gear modifications for 5A and 5E? Hands up.
No hands, sir.
No hands. Okay, let's call for the vote.
Yes, sir. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth. Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. And Jerry James.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, number 6, our management options continued for adaptive management. And I think we've got everything there. That doesn't look like what. Okay. I need a motion.
This is Tom Smith. I make a motion that we approve, recommend adaptive management 2.6.
This is Sam. I'll second.
Any discussion?
What to the Northern Committee?
Yeah. I've got a question.
The Northern.
And this probably-
one. I'm sorry.
This is Adam. I got a question, and probably more towards the division staff. With adaptive management, what oversight does the division or the director receive or subject to, I guess, before they implement something? I mean, does it need to go before the commission, or how does that work? I'm just not in favor of giving someone all the power in the world to manage the way they see fit. I believe that's some of the problems we got at large with the government in general.
Hey, Adam, this is Steve Poland. So as far as oversight for proclamations, there's oversight in rule as far as what basically justifies a proclamation. And things like variable conditions or compliance with FMPs. What the division does with the adaptive management measures, it basically sets a framework list of options that gives the director proclamation authority. It's not complete and constraining to that list, but by including adaptive management in plans like this, it provides some guidance to the director on when proclamations can be issued to take management action and when they may be outside of compliance with fishery management plans. So by the adoption of adaptive management, it just really clarifies what actions can be taken
by proclamation and what actions may need to be considered through rulemaking or additional fishery management action. I hope that answered your question.
It does, and I appreciate that answer.
Anyone else have anything?
Fred Scharf.
Fred?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about the first part of the adaptive management. It says that we would update the stock assessment at least once between the benchmarks to review the biological reference points and review the total alba landings. So there was just the stock assessment for Albemarle Roanoke in 2020. You know, was that a benchmark? And when's the next benchmark scheduled? So just trying to get a sense for, you know, when the two benchmarks are and when an interim assessment might get done.
So thank you, Dr. Sharp. This is Charlton. That assessment was a benchmark and it included data through 2017. We are going to update the assessment this year with data through 2021. So that we'll be doing that this year, updating that. So that was the last benchmark in the 2020 assessment.
Super. Thanks, Charlton. That's good to hear.
Anything else? Anyone else got their hand raised?
No, sir.
Call for the vote.
Yes, Chair. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. And Jerry James.
Aye. I think it passes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next thing we go to is Appendix 3 for Tarpamico, Neuse River Sustainable Harvest. Management options. Number 1 is continue the no possession measure or be in no possession measure. So I need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. Well, maybe it's the next part I want to make a motion on. You're going to take those separate?
Yes, I'll take those separate.
Okay.
Do you want to?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay. Need a motion.
Tom Smith, I can't see the whole thing, but this is Appendix 2, well, Appendix 3, excuse me, Option 1A. I recommend that we approve that, or recommend that.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Was that Fred Scharf?
It
Second.
was.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Anybody got their hand raised?
No, sir.
Call for the vote.
Yes, Chair. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith. Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Nay.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
No.
Thank you.
And motion passes.
It does.
8-2.
Delayed.
Okay. Okay, then number 2 is, the one we got is, I'm sorry,
So was Tom's for 2A or was it for 1A? I'm sorry.
1A.
Okay, I had a typo there. Nobody did it. Nobody got to the end there.
Right, okay,
This is not my computer. I'm not used to it.
okay.
Good.
Are we good?
Yes, sir.
Adam has his hand up.
Okay, Adam?
Actually, I was going to try to make a substitute motion before we pass that, but let's continue on with the program.
Okay, number 2, the gill net restriction or limits. And all we got is maintain gillnet closure above ferry lines.
Mr. Chairman,
Ma'am,
I would like to add it back in, the gill net that were allowed before the commission took it out. I want to put gill nets back in here, not to maintain that gill net closure above the ferry lines.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second, but I'd like to offer a friendly wording change, Pam.
That's fine.
I mean, I've got one written out here and I'll read it aloud and then you can tell me if you accept the change or not, if that's okay.
Yes.
But right, I got a motion to recommend to the Marine Fisheries Commission to remove the gillnet moratorium / ban above the ferry lines and reinstitute the management measures that were active prior to the 2019 moratorium.
Yes, I'm friendly to that. Thank you, Adam.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any discussion?
Do I need to reread that for staff?
Yes, please.
Yes, please, sir.
Okay, recommend to the MFC to remove the gillnet moratorium above the ferry lines and, oh, sorry, I lost my place. I was trying to read two things. Marine Fisheries to remove the gillnet moratorium above the ferry lines and re-implement the management measures prior to the 2019 closure moratorium, however you'd like to word that.
I got it.
You got it?
And Jason Fowler has his hand up.
Okay, Jason,
Yeah, what was the recommendation from the Northern Committee last night?
I was fixing to tell you that. Motion was to end the gillnet closure above the ferry lines and return to the NCDMF regulations prior to the 219 closure, and it passed 7-1 with one abstention. So they voted to do this, basically what our motion is now. Fred, you have something?
Well, I have a couple questions. So I'd like to know more about that motion and how it relates to the original options 2B and 2C that were in the draft appendix that the MFC removed in last month, right? So those options provided access above the ferry lines to gillnet operations during the shad season. So how does the motion that you guys just made differ from that? And then sort of a broader question, because I don't know that system in terms of how those fisheries above the ferry line operate. What's the level of participation? What are they targeting? And when does that fishery typically get executed? If anybody can shed some light on that for me.
Well, Fred, I can tell you some of it, but the division would probably be more able to tell you more of it. You look at not only just the shad fisheries, but you've got the striped mullet fisheries that occur up there, which are predominantly striped net, and speckled sea trout as well. You've got a spot fishery up the rivers and things like that. And with the closure of the flounder season and large mist gill nets, I mean, it's, you got to give people something to work with.
So it's you expect moving forward, it's probably going to be a lot more small mesh gill net stuff that's working up that way.
I think it's always been predominantly small mesh gill nets. I mean, by the time the commercial flounder season opens in the fall of the year, this year, from what I've read,
yeah,
most of those fish have already exited the system. I think this flounder fishery there is going to be pretty small.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay.
Okay, anybody?
Staff, would you like to address it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Fred, this is Todd Mathis. Thank you. We did have other options in there, and they were, one of those was to kind of temporarily lift the gillnet closure above the ferry lines to allow for a shad fishery. Based on the observer data that we had, there was very few interactions with striped bass. If we limited the shad fishery to 200 yards from shore. And then another one of the options was basically to completely remove the gillnet closure at the ferry lines and, implement the 3-foot tie down and distance from shore year round, but also kind of during that same period, February 15th to, April 30th, to have, tie downs and a 200-yard distance from shore requirement for the shad fishery. Then after that fishery closes, then we would reinstate the 3-foot tie downs and 50-yard distance from shore from February 14th through the following year.
Thanks, Todd.
Go
ahead.
And just one more thing for the adaptive management for that fishery. If that were allowed up there, then we would annually review the shad gillnet observer data to evaluate the striped bass bycatch, which we do annually anyway. So
I have a question as well. Well, how much did those tie downs and setbacks reduce striper mortality? I mean, can you give me a hard and fast figure from observer data? I mean, I've had plenty of experience with the observer program in my life. Plenty of it.
Yes, I'd be glad to. The initial work that they did in 2004 showed reductions with tie downs and distance from shore. It was like 85 to 99% reduction in striped bass discards for tie downs, and then a 60% reduction from distance of shore. And then in 2008, that was implemented by the MFC. And then in 2016, they did analysis looking at data before the management measure went in place. So from 2004 to 2009, and compared that to the striped bass discards from 2011 to 2012. And there was a 75% reduction in discards from the commercial gillnet fishery in that study.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else? Anybody else got their hand up? Fred, go ahead.
Yeah, I do again, Jerry. I just, so I would be, if you guys feel strongly about the motion, the way it's written and worded right now, then that's fine. If that's how you feel about it. I just wonder if, a motion that asks the commission to reconsider the options that were in draft appendix 3, given, in other words, to consider those options carefully, given the fisheries that are supported up there and given the data that the division has to support those recommendations, to ask them to reconsider those options rather than eliminate them. But if you guys feel strongly about just asking for a reopening prior to 2019, that's fine. I just kind of offer that as an alternative option.
Anybody else? We see anybody else got their hand raised? Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. So we can call for the vote. Okay.
Yes, sir. Samuel Boyce.
What abstain?
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Abstain.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Abstain.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith.
No.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Aye.
Thank you.
So what have we got here? Motion passes.
Yep.
No? Four?
Yes, it does.
Oh,
Abstain doesn't count.
4-1, abstain, so it passed.
Yes. The motion does pass.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, next one is adaptive management, number 3. And I need a motion. Just to let you know that it
Make a
did.
motion to support adaptive management.
Okay, thanks, Fred. Just to let you know, Northern passed it 8-1.
This is Jason. I'll second Dr. Sharp's motion.
Any comments, discussion? Anybody got their hand raised?
Do I have any hands?
No one?
No, sir.
Call for the vote.
Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith. Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving to Appendix 4, Cape Fear, management options. Number 1, maintain no possession provisions. Allow seasonal harvest in the Cape Fear area. Or do we do this to each one? How do I do that? Do we vote on each one? Or,
The Northern went with option, they did a combination of which ones they chose within that.
okay, so we could go with whichever ones we want. Number 1, maintain no possession. We've got them. Seasonal harvest. Number 3, inland and joint. Number 4, seasonal harvest and inland fishing. And number 5, do we go with that? Yes, we need number 5. We put that on there, or you want to go 1 through 4? How you got it up there?
It's
What was number
adaptive
5? I
management, sir.
can't see it.
Number 5 was adaptive management.
That's a separate motion.
Okay, all right, we can do that. All right,
This is Tom Smith. I'll make a motion to recommend Appendix 4, Option 1.
okay. Do I have a second?
This is Sam, I'll second.
Any discussion?
Adam Tyler's hands up.
Okay, Adam?
I mean, we've heard the WRC say that they would probably stop stocking these fish if it wasn't getting utilized for recreational fishing, i.e. food consumption. I'm not in favor of them stopping the stocking program. And I also think that we should give the recreational anglers some sort of season of some sort. I mean, the removals will start to help. I mean, I'm not saying that's all inclusive of things, but I've got one state agency saying they don't want to stock because nobody's getting to catch them and it's 100% stock fish. So why wouldn't we allow some sort of limited recreational harvest at this point? I mean, whether that's 1 fish per day per person or whatever krill limit that staff between the 2 agencies could work on. I mean, I believe in conservation too, but if you've got a hatchery reared fish going in, why not allow some harvest?
Okay.
I got a question.
Okay, Pam has a question.
I've got a question for Mr. Fritz, who spoke earlier. Can I ask him,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am,
Chairman?
go ahead.
Were you speaking on behalf of NOAA? You were giving an opinion from NOAA? Could you very, very extremely briefly give us what their opinion is on the status of striped bass in the Cape Fear River?
Yeah, NOAA Fisheries' position is that we're looking at fish passage of all the species, not just striped bass, up the river. And we have been watching the striped bass sort of bounce along for the last, for a long time. But it hasn't totally winked out. And I'm old, but I'm optimistic that we're still going to see some improvement in what's going on. That there is a guide fishery for these. So they're not being totally ignored by the recreational fishermen. They just can't keep them. And the commission stocking does help. I mean, I know they've stopped stocking fishes in other systems because of this. Hatchery contribution is overwhelming in a lot of systems. It's not just striped bass here, it's shad in the Roanoke and other places. So it's a tough question to answer, but NOAA Fisheries position is that we don't want to harvest while we're trying to work with the fish passage in the river. And, 5 years from now, come back. I won't be here, but 5 years from now, come back and see what has happened in this time frame. It's too soon because they stopped stocking Jordan Lake. They're talking about stocking with the Cape Fear. So, and then we got the modifications to the Lock and Dam 1. So, and the pulse is coming on in the river. So we got a lot of things going on right now. So that's why we don't want to have harvest.
Okay, thank you.
Tom?
Yes, the reason I think we should maintain no harvest is one, there is some natural reproduction happening in the Northeast Cape Fear River. With that said, you don't want to take the risk of taking out any of those fish, or at least minimize any, through dead discards what goes on. So you want to minimize that. With the changes that are going, it is hopeful that some natural reproduction will occur in the near to medium term. And if that happens, this whole situation changes a lot. But it's, and I would encourage wildlife to continue to stock the river in the meantime. But I think it's very important that we not allow harvest until we see how the fish passages work and where we are. Thank you.
Tom? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask a question.
I got you on the list, man. I'll get you next, whatever. Fred?
Yeah, so I also want to support the continuation of the moratorium or the no possession limit, at least in the short term. And I understand where the WRC is coming from. We've had a moratorium in place since 2008, 2009. So, it's been 13 plus years of no harvest, and we're still seeing very limited spawning and potentially still limited access to spawning grounds on the main stem. But, for several reasons, there is some evidence that there's been some natural spawning in the Northeast. It's very slight, but there's some evidence there. The other is what Fritz just said, is that they did just modify the new fish, the rock arch at Lock and Dam 1, which was originally installed 10 years ago and didn't pass stripers very well. And they just finished the modifications this past fall. So this will be the first spring that we'll get some new data this spring on whether or not that rock arch is working better for striped bass. It worked okay for shad, but the striped bass didn't pass over it. The other thing is based on some of our own research from fish that the division and folks at NC State had tagged with acoustic tags. We spent a lot of time looking at the migration patterns of those fish that are river resident fish, these riverine endemic fish in the Cape Fear that don't leave the river. And their migratory behavior is still embedded within this stock. In other words, what we see within the stock is we see this diverse migratory behaviors. We see fish that migrate to the Northeast. We see fish that migrate to the Cape Fear. We saw repeatability over 2 or 3 years for the same individual fish, making these incredibly long migratory movements in the spring. And so I feel like the migratory behavior is still embedded deeply within the stock. They just need a chance to exercise it. And then there's also on the back end you know, there may be some issues with conditions in the river that are just not as suitable to egg and larval success as they used to be. And folks have just really begun to work on that. So I do feel like there's an opportunity down the road potentially for a seasonal harvest in the Cape Fear if we don't have any success. I just don't think the time is now.
Adam? Adam?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying to get unmuted. I guess my question would be is, why couldn't you have some sort of slot limit to protect the larger females? Kind of like what we do on red drum, whatever that size limit could be. I mean, I'm just trying to get people access to fish. I mean, 13-year moratorium, we're going to continue it, and we've got nowhere with a stocked fishery. That, I mean, makes kind of, I mean, that's no sense to me.
Anybody else? Kane, could I ask you a question? Kane,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm listening.
that's more down your area, and I know that they have those striper tournaments down around Wilmington. Do you fish up around Wilmington a lot, and guide up there? And what are you? I know that some of the guys I know from Duplin County like to go to Wilmington and, you know, and striper fish, especially down there around the battleship in that area. And you know, from what they tell me, there's good sized fish. So, I mean, can you add a little bit to that, or that's more your area down there?
Yeah, Jerry, I'd like to weigh in on it. As far as me and participating in that fishery, it's a whole different world for me. It'd be about a 45-minute car ride, trailer in my boat, and doing that. And it's just something that we didn't grow up doing here in the area. I've got a lot of friends who do guide in the Wilmington area, and they do fish for the stripers, and they always talk about taking me up there and introducing me to it, because it sounds like they have a pretty decent fishery there. They have said that it keeps getting better and better, and it's a lot of fun. And you know, they chip away at the business a little bit in the wintertime, but it's not a huge business for the guides. You know, down here it seems like once it warms up, you know, May we all get really busy, and then we stay busy through November. So you know, I'd like, in one hand, I'd like to see us maybe be able to start keeping some, because I'm concerned with what Adam says. You know, if they stop stocking them, you know, because there's no participation in it, you know, it could cause it to actually collapse. So, you know, I'm kind of torn on the subject there. But anyway, that's kind of what I've heard or whatnot.
Thanks, sir. Anybody? Adam, you got your hand raised? Got something else?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forget that button.
Sam?
Yeah, I just want to say I do fish in that fishery, and I have caught some nice 25-inch plus striper down there, and I am worried about them if they're not stocking that fishery, but I would like to see it get back to something that is, I guess, more naturally sustainable too. So I am honestly torn between this one because of that, but I don't know. It just seems like maybe it'd be better if it was naturally supported in the long run. So I don't know. That's my only thoughts there.
Okay, thank you. Fred, you got your hand up again?
Sorry, I just never put it down.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second, correct? We've had discussion. So call for the vote.
Yes, Chair. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Abstain.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Abstain.
Thank you. Tom Smith. Thank you. Adam Tyler. Adam Tyler.
Nay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute.
Fred Sharp.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
Abstain.
Thank you.
And what do we have? Motion passed. Okay, 5-1. All right, the next one I think is the adaptive management for the same thing. Need a motion.
Tom Smith, for the second time, I'll make the motion, Appendix 4, Option 5, Adaptive Management be recommended.
Okay, do I have a second?
This is Jason Fowler. I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion?
Go up.
Anybody got their hand up? Anybody got their hand up?
The motion is no hands up, sir.
Okay.
Take a second to catch up.
Okay. All
Here
right,
we are.
ready? Option 5. Okay, call for the vote.
Yes, sir. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith. Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey James.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is, and it did pass, okay? The management options for hook and line is a commercial gear. We have 1, 2, and do we need to do 3 adaptive management as a separate?
It's up to you.
Yes, let's do that. So let's go with 1 and 2, for allowing hook and line as a commercial gear, either 1 or 2. And then we'll come back and do adaptive management separately. And could I get a motion?
I'll make the motion for Appendix 5, Option 1.
Okay, do I have a second?
Tom Smith, a second.
Okay, discussion?
I've got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Why do we really care if hook and line is a commercial gear for striped bass? What? What?
Alton, what's?
Who cares? And why?
Well, I mean, if, so we've seen a big reduction, so just for the Albemarle Sound region, for example, we've seen a big reduction in the shad fishery, from, 2.5 months to 3 weeks. Now we've seen a big reduction in our flounder fishery. Before we had the most recent stock assessment for striped bass and the quota was much higher, we actually had a hard time. The majority of the striped bass harvest used to come from the shad fishery. So they just had a hard time having opportunities to catch that quota with gill net without actually just targeting striped bass, which is not a target. And I mean, we've also had closures mostly in the Albemarle Sound for sturgeon, but in the other areas of the state, we've had lots of closures to gill nets because of sea turtle interactions. So, hook and line is just another option would be another gear to allow commercial fishermen to harvest striped bass if for some reason, for any of those reasons, gills net were not available. Obviously, if there's less bycatch with hook and line gear, so it's just another option. Several other states allow hook and line gear as a commercial harvest. In Massachusetts, as a matter of fact, that's their only commercial harvest gear, and they harvest, tens of thousands of pounds a year. So that's the idea, is just to give the commercial fishermen another gear to use if, for a variety of reasons, gill nets were not available.
Well, I understand all that, but we do have commercial hook and line fisheries right here in North Carolina. And for all those reasons that you just said, I would imagine that we would definitely want hook and line as a commercial gear. Definitely. So my question was, this option says, do not allow hook and line as a commercial gear for estuarine striped bass. And my question was, why wouldn't you? And I'm not sure I got the answer to that.
Oh, you were asking why wouldn't we?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
How did this wind up as a preferred, as an option in the red?
So previously, hook and line was specifically illegal to harvest striped bass with prior to the previous amendment. And so through the 2004 FMP, in the last amendment, we did remove that rule to allow it if the industry wanted it. So.
Okay. So the industry doesn't want it?
At the FMP workshop, the FMP advisory committee did not vote for that right now at this time.
Okay, thank you for your explanation.
I'm sorry I got you completely backwards on the first.
Who cares and why?
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Oh, Tom Smith has
Tom?
his hand up.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, as I was on that FMP, the rationale for looking at this for Pam's, your thought is there was, one of the options was to not allow striped bass harvesting with gill nets at all. And this would have been the option to replace that, to allow some striped bass harvest if the gill nets were removed or restricted to the point that, they couldn't basically catch enough to do any good. So this was the option to replace gill nets if the gill nets were removed. And since the gill nets were not recommended to be removed, they recommended not to allow additional pressure through hook and line fishery on top of it. So that's why it is. That's why it came to that way. So
that's why it came out on the committee.
Yes, go ahead, Charles.
Hey, this is Charlton. Yeah, so that's not quite why that option was framed like that. So this hook and line option actually came kind of from the previous amendment. The option about not allowing harvest with gill nets, that came from a request later on through the process in the scoping process from the Marine Fisheries Commission. So this was actually a holdover from Amendment 1 when we removed that rule prohibiting striped bass harvest with hook and line, which really dates back to the late 80s, early 90s when the stock was in trouble and they were really trying to get a handle on all the removals. So that's why they made that rule. So that's not quite, it didn't really have anything to do with that other option in the first one. This is its separate standalone option that would cover everywhere in the whole state. If commercial harvest would open back up in the tarpam noose again, that would be. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, call for the vote.
Yes, sir. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Abstain.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Nay.
Thank you. Tom Smith. Thank you. Adam Tyler. Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. Jerry James.
No.
Thank you.
Motion passes, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, the next thing is the number 3 under the management options, adaptive management. So I need a motion.
This is Fred. I'll make a motion that we support adaptive management.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Jason. I second it.
Any discussion? None noted. Call for the vote.
Yes, sir. Samuel Boyce.
Aye.
Thank you. Kane Faircloth.
Aye.
Thank you. Jason Fowler.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeffrey Harrell.
Aye.
Thank you. Pam Morris.
Aye.
Thank you. Tom Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Adam Tyler.
Aye.
Thank you. Fred Scharf.
Aye.
Thank you. And Jerry James.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Motion passes. Okay, I think we can move along. Ms. Laura, for a Marine Fisheries Commission update.
You went so quickly, I've been caught off guard.
Jerry's done an excellent job.
Thank y'all for putting up with me.
Well, when you get through quick, it means you've been a good chair.
No, yeah.
Yes, he has.
Okay. So I will run through these pretty quickly, but if anyone has questions afterwards, I'm happy to discuss those. So at their February meeting, and as you are all well aware, the Marine Fishery Commission approved the draft Amendment 2 to the Estuarine Striped Bass FMP without the gill net restriction options 2B and 2C in the Tar, Pamlico, and Neuse River Sustainable Harvest Paper. And they approved that document for public and AC review, which you did tonight. And so I do want to remind everyone of the listening sessions. We are holding those the Wednesday before the week of the AC meetings. And that is just to give an opportunity to the public to come and listen to division staff present those documents. They are a long presentation. They are an opportunity to really get into depth with those if you're interested. We do allow questions afterwards. So it's a really good opportunity for just anyone to come and ask questions in a very low pressure environment. So we do record those presentations and put them online under I believe it's under the hot topic page for the species. So you can go and listen to those afterwards. For Amendment 3 to the Southern Flounder FMP, the Marine Fishery Commission approved the Division of Marine Fisheries recommendations as their preferred management options. And regarding the allocation issue, they did approve a 2-year delay in reaching 50-50 parity in that fishery. So the first year of the stepwise process to reach parity was shifted from 2021 to 2023, with the 50-50 parity being reached in 2026. In addition, they approved a resolution that the Marine Fishery Commission would recognize that they may need to consider a moratorium if there were continued excesses in the allowed catch of flounder in both the commercial or recreational fisheries. And finally, they did give final approval to Amendment 2 of the Shrimp Fishery Management Plan, and the division is now moving forward with implementation of the management in that plan. In May, the commission is going to they're going to receive an information update on the North Carolina FMP for interjurisdictional fisheries, and they will also be receiving the stock assessment outcome for the striped mullet fishery in May as well. And that completes my update. Thank you.
Ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The agenda items for the next meeting, Tina, would that be you?
Well, it's really going to depend upon what comes up in our FMP development and what the commission will bring forward to us. So right now, I think we're in a holding pattern. Is that correct, Laura?
Yes, that's correct. So our next meeting right now is not set until, I believe, October.
I think so.
And I believe that will be striped mullet, unless someone throws something at me.
All right.
That is my expectation. But I, of course, will keep in touch with you and let you know as that develops.
Yeah. I want to thank staff for the hard work. I know that y'all had some long days and you got one more long day, right?
That's right, sir.
So, and appreciate you working with me tonight.
Absolutely.
I had a big chair to fill tonight. So, Fred, you'll be back next time.
All right, can I just say thank you to Jerry for running the meeting tonight, and also I would entertain a motion if you guys wanted to replace me as chair with Jerry.
No.
I like sitting in the back here with no pressure.
Request denied. We don't have a second on that either.
I'll tell you what, I think we've got a good committee. I think, it's great to see anybody can step in and work with this group. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that being said, I think we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion. To
I'll
adjourn.
second. I ain't seconding none all night. Can I second it? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job, Jerry.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Thanks,
you for your
Jerry.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you
one.
all.